Welcome to Main Street, Nevada County. I'm Jim Firth, host of Main Street, Nevada County. Our guest today is Steve Eubanks, a member of the Biomass Task Force here in Nevada County. Welcome, Steve.
Thanks.
For many of us, can we get some background as to what the Biomass Task Force is, who the members might be, what the goal is?
Sure. Actually, our group started about 6.5 years ago, and it's a totally volunteer group that came together to look at ways to help sort of facilitate fire-safe clearing, both in the communities that we are around here, and also out in the wildlands. And as we came together, we recognized that the primary way of doing that, probably the best way of doing that, was create a market for the biomass that's created from those kinds of activities. And if you're going to create a market for it, the best way to do that is to have a biomass facility. And so that's kind of how we got started. The group itself is made up of a bunch of different interest groups. It's the Forest Service, environmental groups, the county, just local citizens who have an interest, and the cities have representation as well. And again, it's an all-volunteer group that's been working together for 6.5 years.
Nice. Why are you focusing on biomass?
Well, there's a lot of biomass being created from projects that are existing out in the forest, and even here in the in the areas around the communities with people doing fire-safe clearing.
Right.
The primary way that biomass is being disposed of now is open burning, which creates air emissions that are undesirable. And so if you can find a way to eliminate that open burning through utilizing the biomass, we think that's a good thing.
And there are other benefits to the biomass energy?
Oh, there's lots of benefits in terms of having an energy facility here in the area. There'd be jobs created. There is an economic incentive, actually a business. And, again, the opportunity to get rid of some of that biomass and actually be an incentive for people to do more fire-safe clearing around their houses in the neighborhoods.
So I've seen some photographs of some of the equipment that's used.
Right.
Can you describe a bit of what is utilized in the development?
Basically, again, we're trying to eliminate the open burning that's going on, and I think you have a photo of sort of a typical pile that's being burned. And rather than burning that material, you chip it. There's equipment that's used to take that material and grind it into chips, blow it into trucks, and those trucks haul the chips to an energy facility. And it's actually a fairly simple process, but it's expensive, and that's why we're finding ways to sort of facilitate that operation.
Okay, and you're pretty sure that there is a market or a company that would be able to privately earn a profit by creating this biomass energy?
Yeah, there are a number of facilities that are operating already, and we have done the economics. We actually did a biomass feasibility study before we moved to the step that we're at now, and it shows that it is in fact economically feasible. What you need to do is you need to find a way to take that material, create energy, and then there's actually some carbon credits that can be created, and also some other byproducts like biochar that we'll talk about a little bit later.
All right. The pollution element of this, my sense of it is that we're going to see less pollution as a result of having the product burned in a plant rather than have it burned out in the forest. Are there charts, I assume, about how that is going to be impacted?
We actually have a chart that we can look at here together. And this is graphs that have been produced from actual projects. One project in particular that was done in Placer County that took material that was scheduled to be open burned and instead utilized it in a facility down near the cities. It shows that there is a tremendous reduction in air emissions that are pollutants, and some of which are significant pollutants that influence climate change. And so, yes, and the kind of facility that we're talking about actually converts that material into a natural gas and burns it in an internal combustion engine. So it's very low in terms of air emissions.
Interesting. Okay, we have another graphic, if you will, of there's a piece of land south of the city of Grass Valley that's on county property now, and we'll get to a video in a little bit. But on this graphic, can you describe a little bit of where this proposed site is for folks who are watching?
Yeah, the actual proposed site is along Labar Meadows Road, and it's adjacent to a business rare earth company that a lot of folks are familiar with. And the land is actually owned by a rare earth company, and they have a proposal for subdividing that land into developing it. And we're looking at a parcel that is in the basically in the southwest portion of the parcel that they own. It would be about 3 to 4 acres in size, and it's significantly screened by existing vegetation, and it's well off Labar Meadows Road, so a very small impact.
Will there be not so much a visual impact, but is there noise? Is this a noisy operation?
There's some noise from trucks coming and going. There's noise from a loader that's operating that would be moving the chips from piles of chips that are around the facility and into the facility itself. But the noise is pretty minor, and recognize that this site is adjacent to Highway 49, where there's a huge amount of noise just from the highway itself. So the noise pollution is very minimal.
Okay, excellent. Why don't we take a moment and view the video that we have where we walked around the site a little bit. So Steve, I guess this is the area of a proposed business park that the biomass plant will be located maybe 500-600 yards back up near where those trees are.
Yeah, this is actually an old lumber mill site. It was abandoned several decades ago, and we believe it's a really good site for a biomass facility. It's, as you point out, it's a good distance away from Labar Meadows Road. It'll be screened by actually those trees that you see in the background. And there's good separation for noise and other impacts. There'll be a minimal amount of noise from the plant to begin with, but it's really the site will minimize it even further. So we're actually on the site here where the facility would be located. And we're starting out sort of looking toward the north part of the parcel, and then panning around to the east, and then we'll be coming back around to the south and a little bit to the southwest. And there's a little bit of a slope coming up here, but then it's fairly flat on the parcel itself. And we've found that facilities like this generally need about 3 to 4 acres for not just the facility itself, but for chip storage and ease of working with the trucks that come in here to deliver the chips. Now, most of the trees here on the site itself would be removed. You can see that they are quite young trees, actually. If you take a look, they were here since the mill was abandoned, and that's just 2 or 3 decades ago, so they're not very old. But there would be a buffer of trees to the east between us and Labar Meadows Road, and then also a buffer between the site and Highway 49.
Okay, and the county, they, I understand, have property south of here, is that right?
That's correct, yeah. That's the county. I think it's actually sort of a corporate yard now. It's being used for rock storage. I think they're looking at the possibility of moving more of their equipment there ultimately. Okay, so we're on the sort of the northern part of the parcel. You're looking at what is probably going to be one of the access routes to the parcel, maybe a loop route.
We've walked about 50 yards down from the top of the site, and we have maybe, another 2 football fields to reach the road. And you have this large canopy of trees that are going to buffer the top of the site from the road. Well, that was very interesting. I think that having the opportunity to really look at where this location is and how people are going to drive by it without even realizing that it's there off of Labar Meadows Road, should that ultimately be the site that's selected. I guess I'm also curious how that burning of wood and natural gas instead of natural gas compares to the burning of coal also with this plant.
Well, actually, burning of wood, of course, it's a renewable resource. And so in that sense, it's a little bit like solar, wind, and hydro. Natural gas, coal, other fossil fuels are not renewable. And so there's a very different impact on climate change, as an example. Biomass actually, according to most studies, is actually carbon neutral. So it's even better than, it's much better than any of the fossil fuels. And in a sense, it's way better even than solar and wind and hydro, because biomass is a product of projects that are out there to protect communities and protect forests and help protect our watersheds, help protect wildlife habitat. So they actually have a concurrent benefit, whereas solar and wind do not have those kinds of benefits, neither does hydro. They are renewable, but they don't have other benefits that add to their value.
There's been some criticism of doing too much extraction of the fuels from forests.
Right.
Is there a real balance in terms of what is going to be removed and what's going to be left on the forest floor so that we're not impacting the forest negatively?
Well, I think it's important to recognize that all the projects that are producing the biomass are actually, they go through an environmental study process. It's either on federal lands, it's NEPA, and on state lands or other lands, it's CEQA. And the projects have to meet very stringent requirements. California has the strongest forest practice requirements of any state in the United States. And part of those requirements call for leaving a certain amount of material on the ground for wildlife habitat and for soil nutrient recycling. So the issue is that we are not going out to harvest trees to produce energy. We're out there with projects that are already being planned, already being carried out to help protect the forests and help protect our communities. We're now going to be able to utilize the excess biomass for energy rather than burning it, and open burning it.
So are part of the jobs that you referred to a bit ago involved in collection of that fuel?
Yes, absolutely. There would be some jobs that would be associated with harvesting and transporting and processing that material, and then there are other jobs actually at the facility itself that would be running the facility.
Interesting. And it's all going to be economically feasible, you're saying?
Well, the studies show that it is, and of course there is new legislation in California that's passed a couple years ago that actually gives an economic incentive for new facilities like the one we're planning that are 3 megawatts and smaller in capacity and are utilizing biomass. And so there would actually be a subsidy for the energy that's produced. In addition to that, there are carbon credit processes that are available that would fit for this kind of facility. And then I mentioned the word biochar earlier in our conversation. Right. That's actually a byproduct of gasification systems like we're planning. And biochar is a material that's, again, it's byproduct. It's a material that can be used for soil nutrient or soil productivity enhancement. It's not actually nutrients. It helps the soils process water or hold water and keep it for plants, and also a place for mycorrhizae to grow. And it's also used in water filtration systems. And in some cases, that biochar is actually more valuable than the energy that's produced from the facility. So there's a number of things that help enhance the economic feasibility of the kind of facility we're talking about.
All right. Do you expect that, given the success of this kind of operation, that there's going to be too much competition of people wanting to enter into this business and then not having enough available fuels to support a number of different plants around an area? Well,
our feasibility study showed that just for this local area, we have enough material being produced for at least 2 of these kinds of facilities. And if you look at the Sierras as a whole, which is what the legislature was looking at when they passed the bill that gives a subsidy for this kind of facility, there is enough material out there for many, many more plants than are going to be ever built. And so that's really not an issue. And in fact, the level of harvesting and different kinds of projects that's going on around the neighborhoods now are less than what are needed, and so there's even more material than what is being produced is feasible out there. So that's not going to be an issue.
So what do you expect to be happening next in the process of having this particular, either this location, another location approved, and how do people get involved in the process?
Well, right now we're going through the process. In fact, it just started a week ago, undergoing a contract that will do the preliminary work to get a conditional use permit for the site that we talked about, and also do the site planning. And at the same time, concurrent with that, within the next month or so, we will be connecting the landowner with potential facility developers. And so we're hoping that they will come to some kind of an agreement that will lead to actual construction of the facility sometime in the next 2 or 3 years.
Okay. I did notice that the Board of Supervisors has approved the zoning that's required for this
Correct.
plant.
Right.
How do people find out more about it? Where is there information that is easily accessible so that if people want to get involved in this issue, that they have an opportunity to do so?
Well, the first thing they can do is look at the website for the Fire Safe Council of Nevada County, which is rufiresafe.com. And that, the Fire Safe Council is one of the really critical partners that we've had in our biomass task force from the very beginning. They've been an excellent partner, and they are actually the fiscal agents for our current grant and the contract that we're undergoing. And so they are on their website. They're holding a lot of information about it. And you can find out about how to get on the mailing list. We actually have a mailing list for our task force, and anybody who's interested, it's open to the public. Anybody who's interested can just say, put me on the mailing list, and they can find out about future meetings and all kinds of information.
Okay. I mean, we have ability, I guess, these days with computers to Google something. Is there a phrase that someone should Google in order to quickly access any of that?
Again, just Fire Safe Council in Nevada County is the best place to look.
Great. Well, thank you very much. This has been extremely helpful and informative. If people have questions about how to get involved beyond just that, please contact us here at NCTV, Main Street, Nevada County. We look forward to seeing you again at our next program.